Oh, no, it's you've done this before.
Bring it quickly, hold it, and then stay for a moment.
Yeah. Make eye contact with Chelsea, who's going to listen for it to dissipate, and then you can sit down. Yeah. People were just rushing to it. So we'll kind of, in fact, once when you come up here, you can pause. Oh. When you're, like for extinguishing the chalice and any of the other things that you are leading the congregation in, hold this up, because this is new, so people can see what they're supposed to be doing. Alrighty? Thank you. Well, I looked right at you, and then, that's gravy, I'm sorry. This is, do you know? Yeah, all right. She's going to introduce you.
Oh, okay. I just sit here like.
Yeah. Hi. How are you all?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Mic test 1, 2, 3. And you're gonna like this, right? You're gonna have this lid, but we're gonna practice it. So would you mind?
And
The chime of the bell beckons us into a sacred time. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, a congregation that welcomes you and extends a heartfelt and inclusive invitation to join us in meaningful worship and in service to the world.
Come, everyone who wants to. Come if you like to study theology. Come if you like to finger paint. Come if you've been in church since birth. Come if this is the first day you've courageously arrived. Come if you can say all 7 Unitarian Universalist principles by heart. Come if you don't even know what they are yet. Come if you like tradition and ritual and ceremony. Come if you like balloons and laughter and jumping in puddles. Come if you like all these things and love the mystery of the universe. Come as you are, old and young, just as you are right now, each of you, every one of you, and let us have this time together. We greet all of you who are here this morning, those in our sanctuary, all of our many online viewers too, así como el creciente número de participantes bilingües que nos acompañan desde sus hogares. We are glad you have joined us this morning for our bread communion, an annual tradition and ritual on the Sunday before Thanksgiving. We will be sharing with one another delicious breads inspired by our ancestors. While mask wearing in the sanctuary is currently optional, you are encouraged to continue to wear your mask if you are more comfortable doing so. Finally, we want you to notice that in your pew pocket, you will find a laminated page with our repeated elements of our regular worship. Please make note of that now because you'll need it. You'll need to refer to this information throughout this morning's service. And now, please join Dr. Rock for our first hymn.
Good morning. It's a nice, brisk morning. Please open your hymnals, your gray hymnals, to number 69, Give Thanks, and rise in body or spirit and join as we sing.
Please be seated. We gather here this morning to break bread together, a phrase that is infused with a sense of hospitality. More than sharing a meal, breaking bread together is sharing a sense of kinship that may foster deep connection. We gather to tell stories of our ancestors and those they broke bread with. We gather to remember our connections to those ancestors, to give thanks for the connections with those with us here today, and to look forward to those connections we and our families will enjoy in the future. Come, let us break bread together.
Celebremos compartiendo nuestras vidas, encendiendo esta luz.
Our annual bread communion is a multi-generational service, which means we share the hour with all ages, our children, our teenagers, as well as our adults and elders. It is a special time to be together each autumn. At the end of each pew, you will find colored pencils and crayons and images to color. And there's also a chef's hat you can color and put on if you'd like. They're not at every pew, so if there's one behind you, if it's not on the pew you're in, and you can pass them around. Finally, these are good for the quiet parts of the service. We invite you to color and listen. Finally, we want you to join us in action at the end of the service. Well, we will share and carry bread represented by the canned food our congregation has collected for the Emergency Aid Coalition. And we will carry those, anyone who wants to go, we're going to carry them down to the Emergency Aid Coalition this morning. It's just a couple of blocks away. Today, we celebrate our annual bread communion ritual. From the flower communion, which originated 100 years ago in Czechoslovakia, to the water communion at ingathering, Unitarian Universalists have embraced ritual. But unlike our creedal friends, our rituals are not overlaid with the symbolism of salvation or the afterlife. As a covenantal people, we appreciate and welcome ritual that draws us into community and grounds us in spirituality and in the justice work we are called to do in this world. Rituals are seen as bridges between the secular and sacred realms, or individually between a believer and the deity. Today, through the imagery and symbolism of bread, tangible gifts from the soil, we reach toward the sacred realm and the past to remember and honor our ancestors. We do this in order to better reach forward and embrace those family and community members coming after us. Before we begin our ritual, we are going to share a story about how bread is baked and enjoyed around the world. Bread is made and eaten in every country of the world. Like this child eating traditional bread his mom has made for the market in Peru. This bread is labeled American, but it is made in Indonesia with a sliced package American-style bread in mind. There is lunchy bread like here, sandwiches with crunchy French bread shared with friends. And did you think about pizza being bread? It's made from dough, rolled out and baked with all kinds of toppings. Created first in Italy and now a big favorite here in the US and in many other parts of the world. It's fun to make and shape bread in your kitchen with your family and friends and bake it on your own oven. Or cook it on a griddle, like these tortillas being fried in Mexico. And if you need to deliver some bread, you just might do it on your head. The bread we brought today, we will eat in bites later, are from different cultures and different experiences. And those are the cultures our community brings together. We celebrate our breads, our different cultures and experiences, and honor our ancestors from all over the world.
Please join with me in a spirit of reflection, a time that some call meditation and others name prayer. Breathe with me the breath of life. Breathe in for loving, for acceptance, and with a sense of calm. Breathe out the sorrow, the division, and the stress. Inhale as we share this interwoven, intricate web of affinity. Exhale as we feel one another's presence. Breathe with me as we gather to do the holy work of kinship and support. Open your mind, open your heart. God of many names and mystery beyond all our naming. Today, the activities and the upcoming holidays remind us of what we too often forget, that we do not stop often enough to reflect on our blessings and express gratitude for them. We ask that you guide our hearts and minds to do that this week and today and during this hour. Help us to reflect on those things we have to be thankful for and reflect on those people with us now or with us in spirit whom we are thankful for. We once took time with those people and offered thanks before every meal, pausing to acknowledge those who provided and prepared the food. But we are busy now, barely pausing to eat and often not together with loved ones. May we remember to pause and take the time to give thanks. We know that the other side of the coin of gratitude and thankfulness is condemnation and censure. We are well aware that while our society has neglected showing appropriate gratitude, we have often not neglected condemning those we see as different, threatening, or even expendable. On this Transgender Day of Remembrance, we remember those who have been threatened, faced violence, and even been murdered simply for living into the full expression of who they are. As recently as last night in Colorado at Club Q, where at least 5 people were killed, the violence continues. Our hearts break with those who worry for and have lost loved ones. During this American Indian and Alaska Native Heritage Month, we remember those who have been threatened, faced violence, and been murdered, even after famously having helped give new immigrants a reason to give thanks for surviving on a new continent. Our hearts break with the repercussions of the banishment and virtual genocide of Native Americans are deeply felt to this day. So today, we not only say thanks, but ask for help in saying thanks more often, to condemn less, and to stand up more often for those who are condemned, not so that we can be thanked by them, but because it is the right thing to do. We pray in the names of all those known and unknown, present and absent, remembered and forgotten. We pray in the names of all helpers of humankind. Amen. We pause now together to lift up that which sits heavy and light on our hearts. We are holding Tawana close in our hearts. Her uncle, Marcus Jackson Sr., passed away last weekend, and her dear friend Carolyn Rich and her uncle, Walter Lee Martin, are both battling health issues. We are keeping Connie Acosta in our thoughts as she mourns a significant loss. We join with Reverend Colin in mourning the passing of his longtime mentor, Stoughton Lind, who passed away at the age of 92 this week. The memorial service for longtime church member Joyce Ambler will be Friday, November 25th at 11 a.m. We send our love to John and the entire family. We now turn to a practice inspired by African, indigenous, and pagan traditions. We say aloud or bring to mind those we wish to be held by the loving embrace of this religious community. They are part of the great cloud of witness and memory, and we will, even if we do not know their names, hold them in our hearts. In this great cloud of witness and memory, amid this beloved community, we hear these names and hold them in our hearts. Let us remember the suffering and joy amid and among our community that we do not know. We pause in awe and wonder of the beauty, diversity, and mystery that is life. In the spirit of love, in the spirit of hope, and in the spirit of compassion, I invite each of you to enter into a time of silent prayer, meditation, or reflection.
Each week, our morning offering is shared with an organization that shares our Unitarian Universalist values and through which we may live out our principles in the world. This week, that organization is Casa Juan Diego. Casa Juan Diego was founded in 1980 to serve immigrants, refugees, and the poor. From one small house near the Rice Military neighborhood of Houston, it has grown to 9 houses. This morning, we welcome active church member Dale Story to tell us more.
Good morning. Thank you, Mirtha, for reducing my paragraphs somewhat. Yes, our share the plate this morning is for Casa Juan Diego, the largest and oldest migrant shelter here in Houston. I've had opportunities to transport migrants to and from Casa Juan Diego for a number of months now, and I've heard many stories. These are the stories of the people that are served by Casa Juan Diego. Very briefly, many of them have faced untoward repression and threats and being preyed upon by drug cartels. One migrant told me about the death of his father at the hands of death squads and his own fear from them. Other migrants have told me about university students being jailed without trial for simply peaceful protesting. Other migrants have been preyed upon by drug cartels, threatened with extortion after the kidnapping of their relatives. Their journey to the U.S. is long and perilous. Have you read the newspapers in the last day or two? Gunboats on the Rio Grande? One woman described the dangers of the Darien Gap into Panama. 3 Venezuelans showed me videos of their trip on top of the Mexican freight train La Bestia, or the train of death as it's known as. But once they arrive at the border, they encounter a not so friendly reception. A most telling experience regarded an asylum seeker who was sent inappropriately, and that's being nice, to a detention center north of here in Livingston with the help of 2 nonprofit agencies outside of the state, a substantial bond that was established, connections with the Houston Interfaith Immigration Group headed by Cheryl Abrahams and Casa Juan Diego itself. He was eventually released, but it was only after difficult negotiations with ICE, which the person from California who was involved with the bonding agency described at best as deceitful, but he ultimately arrived late at night at Casa Juan Diego. And like all those others who arrive at Casa Juan Diego, he was welcomed with open arms, love, and kindness. The first time he had felt safe in not many months, but probably many years. It's very important to understand the devotions of the Catholic workers at Casa Juan Diego. None of them receive a salary. The expenses are substantial. They are covered by voluntary contributions and go solely to support the migrants and the poor. Their mission statement is based and is most telling on Matthew 25, the verses that many of us know. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. Those are not just words on a website for Casa Juan Diego. It's what motivates them and what they practice every day, every year, now for 42 years, including today, which is the reason none of their staff could be here. They are carrying that mission out today. And in fact, they're involved in their own services this morning. Thank you very much.
Those in our sanctuary will find the instructions for text giving in the order of service, and those watching the live stream will see the instructions on your screen. Our regular Sunday morning offering collection invites us to weave a tapestry of love in action. We ask you to give generously. An offering will now be gratefully received.
the offering dedication, which is found on your pew card. To the work of this church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings.
Please return to the responsive reading in your order of service. I will read the words in regular print, and please read those in the bolded italics. Fresh baked bread is a delicious treat. Filled with love and warmth and heat. Knead the dough and let it rise. And soon you'll have a big surprise. From the water, flour, and yeast. Grows the golden, delicious feast.
Our second reading is Bread by Richard Levine. Each night in a space he'd make between waking and purpose, my grandfather donned his one suit in our still dark house and drove through Brooklyn's deserted streets, following trolley tracks to the bakery. There he changed into white linen work clothes and cap, and in the absence of women, his hands were both loving, well into dawn and throughout the day, kneading, rolling out, shaping. Each astonishing moment of yeasty predictability in that windowless world lit by slightly swaying naked bulbs, where the shadows staggered, woozy with the aromatic warmth of the work. Then the suit and drive again at our table, graced by a loaf that steamed when we sliced it, softened the butter and leavened the very air we breathed. He'd count us blessed.
Now we invite you to turn in your hymnals to the teal hymnal, to number 1003. Where do we come from? And we're going to do this a little differently. So the first line, we're going to just, this side of the congregation, we're going to sing together. So if you listen, I'll sing it first, and then you can just this side repeat after me. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Great. Now, the other part of the congregation, you're going to sing the third line with Carol. So Carol will sing it, and then you'll sing.
Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery.
Mystery, mystery.
Life is a riddle and a mystery.
All right, let's just try those two lines together, and then I'm going to have the choir join in a minute. Okay, 1, 2, ready, and. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Excellent. So now the choir is going to sing the other two lines, but we're going to do it in order. So we're going to start 1, then 2 is going to come in, then the third line, and then the fourth line, and we're going to repeat it several times, okay? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
Seeds scattered on fertile ground are warmed by the sun and fed by the soil. They sprout and grow, producing great fields of grain.
We bless these seeds.
The grain is harvested and ground into flour and shipped across the nation. The flour is mixed with yeast and water and salt and kneaded, allowed to rise, and baked to make bread.
We bless these seeds. We bless this bread.
The breaking of bread is an ancient ritual of community, celebrated in many different traditions. The bread is broken in the sacred space of this worship service and shared in this community of love.
We bless this bread. We bless this community of love. Food, clothing, and shelter are the three basics of human survival. But the latter two seem to last a bit longer. I wear sports jackets handed down from my father-in-law from back when he wore them into his West Texas law office. I have jeans that have lasted for years, although I am only periodically able to fit into them. I've lived in my apartment since I moved to Houston over 3 years ago. Conrad first moved into our house in Dallas nearly 3 decades ago. But I find myself at HEB at least once a week. So perhaps it's not surprising that festivals celebrating gratefulness, or really celebrations of any kind, center around food. The presence, and especially an abundance of food, has been a cause to give thanks, since manna was delivered to the wandering followers of Moses via an Egyptian desert version of Grubhub. According to the Gospels, one of Jesus' last activities was sharing the Passover meal with the apostles. Luke quotes him as saying, "I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you." Commemoration of this event, of course, gave rise to the Eucharist, or Holy Communion, a crucial sacrament in Christian churches. Feast days memorializing the saints became regular occurrences down through history and within the early Christian church. Food is used to mark commemorations in many religions. Hanukkah would not be the same without latkes, often with applesauce and sour cream, beef brisket and kugel. On the 7th and 40th and 1st anniversary following the death of a Muslim, the flour helva is offered to visitors by relatives of the deceased. The vegetarian or vegan Buddhist cuisine, based on the dharmic concept of ahimsa, is observed by monks and some others year-round, and by many other Buddhists during celebrations. Specific foods are tied to certain holidays around the globe and are as traditional as our turkey, green bean casserole, and pumpkin pie. And during even less auspicious occasions, food takes center stage. Couples go out on a date over burgers, friends hang out and argue over pizza toppings, and many a family reunion features fried chicken and potato salad. When we gather to enjoy sports and entertainment, baseball includes a hot dog, a movie has a bucket of popcorn, and armchair quarterbacks have chips, salsa, and beer within arm's reach. Bread is virtual shorthand for food or sustenance. And we understand breaking bread means we'll be sharing quality time as well as something to eat. Bread has been a universal food virtually since there have been people to eat it. And no country in the world has a culinary tradition that does not include some sort of bread. Excavations of small villages of the Natufi culture in northeast Jordan have uncovered the remains of a hearth, which provides evidence that bread was made 14,000 years ago, 4 millennia before agriculture began. The word for bread has appeared on Sumerian tablets since the first invention of writing in 3600 BCE. Bread was the staple food during the Roman Empire, and the emperor was obligated to provide it to everyone. Gradilis was a bread distributed to spectators during the games in the amphitheaters, fulfilling the demagogue's promise of panem et circenses, or bread and circuses. Bread remained intertwined with politics down through the centuries until even more recent times. Bread and roses is a political slogan that originated in a speech by the women's suffrage activist Helen Todd. The phrase is associated with the 1912 textile strike in Lawrence, Massachusetts, now often called the Bread and Roses Strike. The slogan paired the food and flour as it appealed for both fair wages and dignified working conditions. The slogan inspired a poem, which was set to music, and you may be familiar with the Judy Collins version. Years earlier in Massachusetts, beginning in the early 1600s, migrants from Europe celebrated both days of fasting and Thanksgiving to thank God for such blessings as harvests, ship landings, and the end of a drought, and blessings such as warm bread. Richard Levine described it, "At our table, graced by a loaf that steamed when we sliced it, softened the butter and leavened the very air we breathe, he'd count us blessed." Thanksgiving has been celebrated nationally on and off since 1789, and later became a federal holiday with a permanent date, the fourth Thursday in November. The colonists, of course, celebrated with foods indigenous to the Americas, with many of those dishes becoming holiday traditions for countless families. So it becomes easy to see the direct line our ancestors, baking breads and cooking dishes, began from long ago with us today. Many of you may have other food traditions in your families, like the pretzel salad or oyster dressing my grandmother would make. It's easy to see how and why these beloved foods are central to our memories, our celebrations, and family gatherings. But we may not often think about how we got to this point, and we may even think less about the legacy we may be leaving to those following. Before we begin our bread communion, we will pause for a time to reflect on those who will come after us, to whom we will entrust these traditions, these foods, this love. We will pause to appreciate those now in our community, our friends, and our family. We pause to express gratitude for these people, our food, clothing, and shelter. We pause to give thanks to our ancestors, to appreciate those who bequeathed these traditions to us. We've asked Natalie Brown to reflect on the bread traditions of her ancestors before each of us does the same in the silence.
The bread that I share, is this on? Yes. Okay, the bread that, I'm sorry?
Move the microphone
Up?
There you go.
Thank you. The bread that I have brought today is Brazilian cheese bread, which was created from the manioc root initially by African slaves. They used what was left over at the end, the powder, which we today call tapioca, that wasn't used by the household. And from that, they created a bread that in the 19th century, those who were more wealthy perfected with cheese and with eggs into what we serve today. It does not come from my blood ancestors, although they enjoyed it, I'm sure. Rather, it comes from the whole of Brazil. When you go there, you'll have a chance to go just to any little place and you'll find cheese bread. The reason I brought it is I am half Brazilian. And I don't get the chance to talk about it very often, but my mother is third generation Brazilian born from immigrants that came from the United States. The food of Brazil is one way that I claim my Brazilian heritage and give thanks for that part of my history. I hope you get a chance to try this little savory bread. Thank you.
In a few minutes, when we begin, we will be inviting people to come forward to take a couple of pieces of bread. And we do have more at the back, and I wonder if we need a little more up here. Especially the cheese bread. That's for everybody to have one. Yeah. Please know that there is plenty, and that there was no need for you to have brought bread to receive bread. And we hope that everyone will come forward to partake in our bread communion. You also have the opportunity to step up to the microphone and briefly describe the bread you brought and why it is special to you. We'll have them down on the floor. Please limit your story to only a line or two. We want to hear from each person who wants to share. And please come up the side aisles. So we invite the ushers to come forward and stand on the side aisles. Please come up the side aisles, and then when you return to your seat, please go down the middle aisle. Our welcome team will signal each aisle to let you know when it's your turn to come forward. Let us begin.
Testing. My dad often worked the graveyard shift. Saturday mornings after work, he would stop by the panaderia and buy sweet bread. Our favorite were the conchas, which translates to shell. They look like little turtle shells and come in different flavors. That was our family bonding time.
My dad loved Italian bread, and I brought actually a sourdough hearth bread. In wartime in England, where both of my parents lived, dessert was rationed food, so it was a piece of bread and some butter and some jam, and it was called a jam butty. That was dessert.
I brought cornbread today. I'm Southern. I grew up in Mississippi, and my mom made this at least once a week. But her little protest, because she wasn't terribly Southern, was that she put sugar in hers. So it's Northern cornbread.
I brought my bread that I've designed, made with dried onions and pepper, which also sits and rises for at least 24 hours before I bake it.
We brought a brown German rye bread, and it's a recipe. I didn't actually have a recipe of German bread from my German heritage, which is the only heritage that I'm really aware of. So I just found one, and we made a dark rye bread this morning.
We are so grateful for the bread and the stories that were shared this morning. Take one moment to close your eyes and reflect on our shared existence in this present moment. We offer up our profound gratitude for the hands and hearts of this beloved community, where we hold our hopes and dreams for those gathered here, those ancestors who went before us, and those we love and cherish beyond these walls.
For our closing hymn today, we invite you, if you wish, to stand and move with us. But it looks like a few people are still eating bread, so let's just wait another minute. Let's wait a minute before we start. No need to rush. I can swallow. How about you listen to me sing the first verse through so you can get it in your head? The words are in your order of service. But the music isn't there, so listen to how it goes. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down. And then step, step, step. So when you're standing up, you'll do that part. And then the chorus just goes a little higher. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down. Are y'all ready to stand up and sing with us? If you wish, yeah. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down. I am a rice seed waiting to be born. I am a rice seed waiting to be born. I am a rice seed waiting to be born. My roots go down. My roots go down. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down. I am a wheat field blowing in the wind. I am a wheat field blowing in the wind. I am a wheat field blowing in the wind. My roots go down. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down. I feel my ancestors here today. I feel my ancestors here today. I feel my ancestors here today. My roots go down. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down.
join me in reading the words to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Beloved, as we depart this holy space, nourished and grateful, we remember those who came before, those who planted the seeds, who ground the flour, who lovingly shared of themselves by breaking bread with others. May these connections inspire and sustain us. May our love, connection, and sharing continue their legacy of service to the world. As you depart this place, continue to be grateful, live in hope, and go in peace. Amen.
Thank you so much for watching our service today. We're glad you're part of our online community, where we welcome people who are diverse in faith, ethnicity, history, as well as gender identity and sexual orientation. There are many different ways you can get involved in our community. One you can do right now is by clicking like below or subscribing to our channel. If you're interested in joining our congregation, please email us at membership@firstuuhouston.org. Thanks so much for joining us.